JJK is in hot water today for this scene. I mean, when you take a look at social media and you see Jujutsu Kaisen trending, Mei Mei trending, and then you see it also trending in Japanese, it's very clear there's some conversation going on. And if you're wondering what that conversation is, if you're completely unaware, which I doubt, it is thanks to this scene in particular with Mei Mei and her brother laying in bed together. And it's a very, let's be blunt here, it's a suggested scene. It's suggesting something is going on between these two characters. There's always been, this atmosphere around the two characters for a long while now, but this episode and this scene in particular definitely amps it up to 11. It jumps considerably high, and it pretty much says, yeah, there is definitely some taboos being crossed with the way this scene is being presented. So let's take a few moments to talk about the context of this scene. So obviously, when you take a hard look at that beginning portion, because obviously people are going to be memeing this segment to death, I'm probably going to be using it as a thumbnail as well, people are just going to be talking about this bed scene with the brother and sister, and that's about it. And anyone that knows of the controversy as of late in the last month or so with the coffin of, Lele and Andy, knows for a fact that, when it comes to online, when it comes to a certain taboo, it's not murder or anything like that or some really messed up stuff. It comes down to if you go into the act of like a brother and sister, this taboo relationship going on, that's where a line is crossed and, people go ravaged. They go feral. They go absolutely insane. Like, the creator of, Lele and all that, they got doxxed, as we all know. I talked about this in a separate video a few weeks back. And so, obviously, to this scene, the reaction of the entire community, or not the entire community, just the portion that always can't, separate reality from fiction, is getting very upset with the scene, and just looking at this segment and not really getting the full context of what Gegi was trying to present with this scene of Jujutsu Kaisen. So let's get into that. So basically, this entire scene, obviously, people might think it could have been presented in a different way, fine. But what it shows is just how morally bankrupt Mei Mei is as a character. And what I mean by that is like the very beginning of this scene, I want to go back to the literal beginning of this scene before we see them, we basically see where they're at. They're in Malaysia. And where have we heard that before? What character wanted to go to Malaysia? Nanami. Who died a few episodes ago? Nanami. Now, you gotta factor all this in. Why did Nanami die? Well, he was a hard worker. He didn't know how to take time off or be, selfish to a degree. He was very selfless, and even his final words was being selfless instead of selfish, and he died like he did. And obviously, it's had a huge effect on Yuji as a character and just the events of JJK, but the point of the matter is what this scene is showcasing is a complete contrast to Nanami, is that good people die early, die young, because they're selfless, while the evil and the very selfish individuals continue to live on and thrive. And that's exactly what this scene tries to showcase. It shows that thanks to Mei Mei's outright selfishness, her greedy nature, literally, this whole scene, within context, she is talking about stocks, she's talking about market prices and how the economy is going to go down thanks to what happened to Shibuya, with just, everything with what happened to the city. Obviously Mei Mei already pulled out all of her stocks, her money, etc., to be able to make as much money off of this as possible and to conserve and save money. For instance, instead of worrying about lives, instead of worrying about going on to ground zero and trying to save people or fighting, ghetto and all that, no, she straight up just worries about money and just dipped out with her brother, and that's about it. And then she's having a lavish hotel night with her brother in bed in Malaysia, the very country that Nanami wanted to take a vacation in. So I think it kind of all makes sense now. Anyone that gets the full context of the scene, Gegi is not trying to say that this is alright, that, this whole situation with the brother and sister is a-okay. What it's showing is that the darkness within this story is usually the people that are the villains. People that are bad people typically live longer because they're so selfish. And it kind of represents Sukuna very well as a character too, and what his message and theme is, in general. So when you look at Mei Mei surviving here, it's just yeah, you might think man, she's messed up for this, but that's the point of the whole scene. She is a very messed up person. You can kind of say she's a little bit of a villain. She is not a good person, and that's exactly what this scene is trying to paint, is that there's just so much selfishness on display here. She's just worried about only things that she cares about, her brother, to, her money, to just, living in general, not even helping anyone else. She dipped out and didn't even want to help her students, didn't want to help anyone, just was willing to throw them to the wolves and let them die. And it just shows how messed messed up she is. So yeah, a legitimately great scene. I feel like a lot of people are gonna, take a hard look at this scene, and they're just gonna look at this scene, which, to be fair, it is hilarious. It just, without context, you see this, it's just like, bro, what? Like, it's wild. Like, this is how it was in the manga. Like, this is the exact frame in the manga when we got it, and you can see it right here. You can kind of see, just like, looking at this without context, it looks pretty bad. But when you consider everything, you consider the following, you consider Nanami and everything that's happened up to this point in JJK, it all makes perfect sense. It really does. Now, could Yagi have presented this in a better way? Maybe. But I think that what really demonstrates is just how depraved, Mei Mei is, and just how messed up as a person she is. Go as far as you can, and that's exactly what this scene kind of shows. But okay, enough with that, let's actually move on to some really good stuff. Like, I mean, this was good stuff because of just the context of it, but let's talk about the scene with just, Geto getting rid of Mahito. This is a legitimately insane scene, because, let's be completely blunt here. The last episode was Yuji hunting down Mahito to get rid of him. And what this sequence basically implies is that Yuji didn't kill Mahito. It was Geto that got rid of him. Just, like, sealed him up and just took him. And it's just like, yo, what? And it's just such a left-turn direction. It's just like, Geto's obviously been waiting for this. Waiting for Mahito to be weakened and whittled down to the point to where he could do something like this to him, and was just using Yuji all for that purpose, and everyone else that fought him. And it goes along with the Mei Mei scene, is that, usually the selfish characters, the people that are morally bankrupt, typically tend to come out on top because they are bad. They are the villains, and they just play it smart. They play it safe, and that's exactly what happened here. While you have characters that have been fighting on the front lines and dying, etc., they're absolutely exhausted. Like, when you think about the sequence here, like, what this fight really is, everyone that is trying to face, Geto here in this episode, they're all exhausted. They have been fighting for multiple episodes now, and everybody is just spent. And the only person that really can fight at this point is people that are either extremely weak and basically fodder tier, or individuals that legit just, had to switch sides, aka Chozo. And I think that this is a legitimately great episode to showcase that, Geto is someone that waits patiently for what he wants, and that's exactly what just happened here. Now, let's get into some of the reveals that this episode, kind of gives us. One of the big things that this episode does give us is that Chozo and Yuji are related to some degree. We don't know the exact extent, but we can find out clearly that this episode tries to present to us that they're blood related somehow. And it is all thanks to Geto that's why they're blood related, because we found out that Chozo is apparently blood related with Geto, or whoever Geto currently is, and Yuji somehow is related. So, thinking about an entity that has survived for, a long time, someone that has, been around for hundreds of years, it makes sense that maybe his bloodline has spread to other people. And so, Yuji and Chozo are related to some degree. We don't know exactly how close they are, but they are brothers to an extent. And so, Chozo being all about brotherly love and just caring about, his family, he wants to protect Yuji. And it's a very good episode. It's very reminiscent of, like, Todo when he came in at the end of season 1. It feels very similar to that, and it's a really nice moment, honestly. It's like one little brief moment of happiness out of all the darkness that we've been getting, is seeing someone like Chozo that really truly believes he's the brother of Yuji, like the older brother, and he's like, I'm going to protect him, even if I have to risk my life and die for him. And this whole fight sequence is absolutely amazing, because it's basically Chozo putting his life on the line for someone he doesn't fully understand or know, but he's like, it's my family. And I love that. It's such a good, beautiful message. But once again, going along with what the messages of JJK is trying to tell us with just this episode alone, is that usually the people that are very selfless or righteous typically don't end up on top. That's just how it usually goes. And so, when you think about this, it's just like, uh-oh, what's about to happen here? But, yeah, I really do like this episode of JJK. It's fantastic. It's a great action sequence, honestly. I mean, I cannot believe how much they gassed up, Chozo in this episode. It legitimately is an incredible sequence of animation. I did not expect it to be this good. Like, I mean, I thought it was just going to be like a one-off thing very quick, but they really went balls to the wall with, just the way this fight sequence was. It's really stunning. But, I guess I'll leave it at that. I believe next week is the finale of Season 2. So, yeah, it's crazy. JJK is finally coming to an end. I mean, at least the animators might be able to get a break, but who knows? No in Studio Mappa, they're just going to instantly force them to start working on, Chainsaw Man's movie. But, all jokes aside, though, thank you so much for watching. May all of you have a fantastic day or night wherever you live. Be safe, stay healthy. Chibi out.